Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Today we are talking about a very, very interesting topic. And before we begin, Sat means truth in Sanskrit. It's a dhatu, is a root word, and logos is a Latin word. And study or science, Sattology means study of truth or science. It's a true antonym of mythology, which means study of fake, lie, or imagination. Now, today's topic is very, very important because some of the authors and commentators, they use that in order to fit in the dates based on a mental calculation, they go astray from the evidences. And so literally they translate in terms of a viewpoint, opinion, rather than evidence-based reasoning. And it destroys the faith of many people. Actually, this is the process which creates a mythology, which means something not real, fake, imagination. And we as a students, we have to stay away from such kind of narrations because it actually attacks the root of our faith and also truth, most important truth. Because if we go away from truth, you all know that it is the truth only in Kali Yuga which makes us survive. That's the last leg of dharma today. And with the truth being absent, then we get into all kinds of imaginative theories, which actually starts destroying our character in the end. It's a big problem. Small divergence can lead to a biggest character distortion. And so without delay, I have a great friend, Rishi Muni, and researcher and amazing researcher. And so he's very famous also all over the globe. He's doing this work for 20 years and dedicated. And so many charts, graphs, and frameworks he has produced. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Nilesh Oak.
Namaskar, Aditya ji.
Yeah, welcome, Nilesh, welcome.
Yes, we have a very exciting subject. Some people may feel how long we are going to discuss the Purva Paksha of one researcher. But sometimes the discussion of a Purva Paksha of a specific claim is, you can almost think of this as an excuse, but that is just using that as a platform to discuss many different things. And so what we are going to, although the subject may look like Purva Paksha of the claim of Professor R.N. Iyengar, 1478 BC, his claim, but actually because he is tapping into different evidence in the format that you explained, just to defend his date, whether the actual evidence takes you there or not. But there is a lot of learning to be done for all of us, which is to say, anytime we look at some claim, we should not be naive. We should not be just juvenile and quickly just embrace it. We should have that reasoning attitude, like a very sharp reasoning attitude that is expected of a bhakta. Many times even the definition of a bhakta has been spoiled now. Bhakta means kuch sochne ka nahi. That is not correct. The bhakta has to be has a very sharp intellect, in what he or she does.
No, Krishna says, one who worships me with intelligence actually worships me. He says that. So intelligence keeping in a cupboard and just emotions will just lead to mental speculation. And most important, after that, you go crazy. And it has happened with so many people who are, some people are bhakta of Bhagwan, and some people are bhakta of the left wing also. Left wing means who oppose anything which is logical.
Yeah.
So you bhakta can go either ways. So to retain sanity in bhakti, you got to use your intelligence, reasoning. That's what it has been given to you. The only difference between a man and an animal is the intelligence.
Yeah.
And if you don't use the intelligence, then what you have to decide yourself.
Yeah. And that bhakta that you talked about, it actually goes in a multiple ways, right? Yajante satvika devan yaksha rakshamsi rajasa.
Correct.
There are people who worship rakshasa also, yaksha also and rakshasa also. Pretambuta ganashani. And there are these others who are worshipping the dead bodies also. I mean, anything is possible.
The same thing people talk about Ravana. So they say Ravana was a great devotee. I said, but what was his actions? Kidnapping somebody else's wives. So after that, you can do all kinds of puja in the house. But what are your actions?
Hmm.
So, just because somebody is a scholar doesn't mean he is a bhakta.
Yeah.
And
Well, great point, and that brings up their intentions. See, for example, when it really doesn't matter that somebody, I'm very hungry and I don't have money in my pocket, and I don't steal a slice of pizza. That's not a big deal. But if I'm hungry and still can I protect myself from stealing that piece of pizza, that matters. So in the scholarly world, what matters is also their integrity when it's really put to the test,
mm,
like how they behave. Do they go for the satyena, satyena labhata tapasa yesha atma? Do they follow the truth, or they blink, they yield to something that is of a very short duration, some temptation? So that's what
and,
matters to me.
and oftentimes also the better answer is I'll get back to you. In
Hmm.
all situations, if you don't know
Hmm.
something, all of us
Correct.
do not know everything,
Yeah.
and these histories are preserved by somebody else.
Correct.
So it's better to go back and say, yes, now I've researched and now I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And,
Very correct. I mean, I'll get back to you, or I don't know. That is a very legitimate answer. You
right,
can say, I don't know. And then you can say, but I can speculate.
correct,
Because then you have very clearly said, hey, this is my speculation.
right.
I'm not saying that this is how it is, or this is what I have
No,
evidence.
but sometimes nowadays in the speculation also, just like Darwin's theory, it was a theory, not
Hmm.
a proof. But
Hmm.
people take one line because nobody has time to read the next one,
Yeah.
and on that basis they think that they have come from monkeys. Because we all
Correct.
know our parents came from parents humans, so only
Right.
Darwin's parents might be from monkey. That is his theory. So
Yeah.
why do we have to do? So Nilesh, let's get started today.
Okay.
Okay,
And what I'm going to do is directly get into sharing the slides here.
right.
Uh, People have seen this series, so it's relatively easy for them to catch up the first few pages.
Mm.
What we are doing is reviving the tradition of Purva Paksha. Don't be fooled by the simple title, because we might be using this same title, but we are uh, exploring very fine elements of scientific acumen, very fine elements of logical reasoning, and how the background knowledge is used or misused. The specific claim, and this is again just as a excuse, I would say, that provides a substrate to discuss. So this is we are talking a specific claim, but many others are in the same boat as what Professor Aryan Iyengar has done with this dating of the Mahabharata. So therefore, so that there is no confusion, because at some places when he has done the good stuff, I will praise him. And then ordinary people sometimes confuse. They think, oh, but you are praising him, and how come you are saying he's wrong or his claim is wrong? Well, I'm praising when the praise is due, okay, and when I'm going to critique or criticize when that is what needs to be done. I mean, when somebody gives you a genuine criticism, actually you should be very thankful and feel good about it. Human emotions unfortunately can keep all of us can keep away from that. But the synthesis is good, and through that the truth does emerge, just like the Samudra Manthan. So just so that everyone understands, I'm asserting, not claiming, asserting, which means it's backed by evidence, that 1478 BC claim of Professor R.N. Iyengar for the year of Mahabharata war is not correct. It's false, it's decisively false, it's unscientific, it's illogical. We are going to look at part 5. But we are going to use this, his work, to also show the right path, okay, how a certain observation can be interpreted. Certain observation, what is the demand? If we are claiming something, what are some of the basic demands that we must meet? And we are going to discuss that today
And
quickly. This is
also through
yeah,
this through his claims, just
yeah,
to add here, we are also, you correctly said, we are actually proving the methodology that we are using, but also we can apply the same methodology to other researches also.
very true. Yeah, it is not limited to dating. It is not limited to the epics. It's not limited to ancient Indian narratives. This is applicable in any field of inquiry. This is applicable to life. And Sir Karl Popper said life is problem solving. We are right now, we have a COVID around, and people are trying to find out all different ways. This method can be applied to solve any problem. That's what we are really looking at. And how to separate how to separate the grains from the chaff, how to separate the fakery from the truth or closest approximation to the truth. So we are learning things through this. So in the first few sessions, like first three parts, we discuss this particular paper of Professor R.N. Iyengarji, Internal Consistency of Eclipses and Planetary Positions in Mahabharata. Then his specific claim, just on this broad scheme of multiple claims of Mahabharata, it fits somewhere there, 1478. I'm just going to make a summary of our past four episodes in this series, and then there are two at the end. One of the two we are going to discuss today, and the one more we will discuss next time, and then we are done with the Purva Paksha of Professor R.A. Iyengar's claim on Mahabharata. What he claimed, he said the planetary positions 4, 5, 6, 7 do not match. This is a very rich evidence from Mahabharata text. By his own admission, he's saying this does not match for 1478. Now, just because he says it does not match doesn't mean we should immediately accept saying, yeah, he's saying it. Why do I need to check? That's not correct. Actually, I went and tried to see if a benefit of doubt can be given to his date, if any of these can match. Unfortunately, they do not match. So I'm saying what he's saying is correct. But what does that mean? That means the 1478 BC is not the year of Mahabharata war. Then he claimed that he created these planetary positions in 7 different buckets, and he called planetary position 1, 2, and all the way through 7. He claims in his paper that planetary position 1, 2, and 3 match for 1478 BCE. If you go back and if you want to look at it, first 3 episodes, what he's claiming is not correct. Actually, planetary position 1, 2, 3 do not match, which is to say not even a single planetary description from the Mahabharata text out of 35 plus planetary descriptions do not match. Please stay with me. This is just a summary. We are going to get into exciting stuff in just a minute. Eclipse evidence is good. That's what he says. Not true, even by his own admission, because it's not correct. In fact, it does not match for 1478 BCE, and therefore then he pulled some other theory. It's not, you cannot even call it theory. It's like a patchwork. He said, well, maybe those references, although it describes at the time of Mahabharata war, but maybe they belong to some 14 years ago. Why did he say 14 years ago? Because he checked something using astronomy, and it appears that maybe it will match there. Okay. I mean, I don't see the logic of it, but that is his logic. I'm just explaining it to you and just telling that is not correct. That is illogical and that's not scientific. Then last time we looked at Ashwamedha reference, Ashwamedha Parva, which is one of the section of Mahabharata. And he claimed that reference from 44 to Dhanishta again takes you to 1478 BC as the year of Mahabharata war, because that can be connected with the timing of winter solstice and therefore 1500 BC. What is the problem with that? We looked at it last time. It's not correct. The Ashwamedha 44 reference of a Dhanishta has absolutely nothing, nada, to do with the timing of the Mahabharata war. Yes, the reference is in the Mahabharata text. It has nothing to do with the dating of the Mahabharata war. It is Krishna telling Arjuna, recalling a very old ancient story of a conversation between Brahma and sages, where Brahma is referring to Dhanishta. That has nothing to do with the Mahabharata war. And actually today what we are going to look at has a very similar flavor. Again, Professor R.N. Iyengar has done the same blunder. See, we all make mistakes, but we shouldn't be repeating the same mistake. The Dhanishta that he refers to in that bullet number 4, Ashwamedha, when as soon as he sees the word Dhanishta anywhere, suddenly his brain starts thinking like, oh, Dhanishta, if I can put it to winter solstice, that will give me 1400 BC, and therefore I'm able to justify for the year of Mahabharata war. Guess what? Science is not about justification. Science is about making bold theories. And Aditya, when you mentioned like what we are doing here is not only limited to what we are studying here or discussing, but it actually has a global application. So how do we solve problems? By making very bold theories, okay, wild anticipations, but not stopping there. You cannot just make a wild anticipation. wild theory, then you actually test the theory with objective evidence to see if it is true or not. What we are going to see today is this bullet number 5. There is a discussion between sage Markandeya and sage Yudhishthir when they are in a Adnyatwas, when they are in the Vanavas of 13 years. During that time, Yudhishthir asked sage Markandeya, he says, you are very long-lived sage. Markandeya had a siddhi by which he could extend his lifespan. We will not go into that, what that exactly means. It can be taken figuratively, it can be taken literally, it's your test. But the point is, Markandeya had a lot of knowledge of the antiquity. Yudhishthir is very curious to know about it. He asked the question, and Markandeya Rishi is telling many things. One among them, what he's telling is something that happened in the long past. It has absolutely nothing to do with the Mahabharata war. But Professor Aryan Iyengar, just because it is in Mahabharata, again, he thinks that can be somehow done some jugad and can be fitted with his a priori claim of 1478. Okay, how did he come to 1478? Because some Mr. Sharma, Dr. Sharma, Professor Sharma, whoever has written something, and Professor Aryan Iyengar happened to like that. That's not how science works. You can take theory from anyone, anywhere. That is not a problem. So taking theory from Sharma is fine. But what is the theory? The theory is that astronomy observations are actual, factual. Well, guess what? That is not happening. So far, we have not seen even a single observation from the Mahabharata text that can match 1478 BC. So what is the problem here? And today, that is what we're going to look at. Number 5, no connection. This observation has no connection with the Mahabharata war. It is Markandeya Rishi describing the ancient event to Yudhishthira. But the event is fascinating. It is fascinating. Again, it has astronomy implication. It has a civilizational implications. It has a scientific explanation, technology explanation, humanity's amazement. I mean, it's how ingenious human mind can be. It is about that. Markandeya describing ancient event to Yudhishthira. And there is a one more that we will address in the last episode of this series. I have introduced that before. Arundhati Vasishta, what Professor Iyengar did is he took a half a line from that Arundhati Vasishta, then he combined with half a line about Mars evidence from another chapter, tried to do some jugaad to explain these both references, and in the process destroyed the whole thing. But he's not destroying this for the first time. He has done this to the entire Mahabharata evidence. Okay. What is that thing? We will discuss next time. He says, if taking a half line from one chapter and taking another half line from another chapter, combining together and just blabbering something that has no sense whatsoever, either science speak or either logic speak, if this qualifies as science and logic, then I'm going to say not everyone would understand unless you know the Indian, what you call Indian politics. Aditya ji would know that. And those people who may be familiar with it know that. If this qualifies what Professor Aryan Iyengar ji has done with Arundhati Vasishta observation combining with Mars retrograde, then I'm saying, you know what? Let's not blame Rahul Gandhi ji for his imagination that from one side you can put the potato in the machine and from the other side pull out the gold. Now, of course, he's saying in a political sense, people in politics may talk about these things, but the fact is there are people in politics who will take this very seriously and will actually truly ask someone like Prime Minister Modi ji, so Modi ji, how do you explain that? Or why did you say that? Guess what? Modi ji never said such a thing. Rahul Gandhi ji, the opposition party individual, is making a straw man out of it. What Modi ji was referring there is that you have to, no matter what you're doing, you may be a farmer, you may have a simple produce, but think of how you can add value to it. That was the context. But somebody deliberately mistranslated that for their own political gains in that case. But if you think it only happens in politics, think again. This is happening in so-called scholarly circles. Okay, in fact, they are so proud to call themselves scholars. There was, Aditya ji, there is one group, Google group. And when, as I said last time also, I talk the way, I will write the way I talk here. You will not find, I will not mince words, but you're not going to find a duplicitous behavior. So when I will write like this, they will say, oh, this is not to be said in a scholarly way. This is not appropriate for a scholarly list. So what do they want to do? Anytime you expose their fraud, they want to hide under this scholarly nonsense. Okay. So for example, here,
This
I mean, what
this
kind of response Rahul Gandhi ji requires? We don't have to give a response. Now, sometime people may give a response, and that actually happens. But now let's move away from politics to bring it to a scientific
just want
research.
to add one point here,
Yeah,
Nilesh.
please. Please.
At least from the researchers, this should not be expected, because
Correct.
it's like a shrestha. They are yadet acharati shrestha.
Hmm.
So if you think you are shrestha, because anybody can be shrestha, and everybody is a shrestha also in their
Yes.
own way.
Yes.
So, but if you think on these topics that you're a shrestha, then set a good example.
Set a
Don't
good example, right?
don't
And
misquote and
yeah,
mix and match, and then just because you want to prove yourself better than others.
correct.
And
So creating a straw man after straw man, and then there are others who don't even recognize the straw man and still will demand answers from me. I said, nonsense. If you are so juvenile that you don't even recognize the straw man, okay, you are not willing to do. See, there is this one particular group, recently that happened. I said this other researcher is creating a straw man. This one individual, he has read his blog and has given a certificate how beautiful that blog is, and that is his right. They can do whatever, they can praise each other as much as they like, but ask for my comment. So I said, this guy has created a straw man. He said, well, please, no, I don't think it's a straw man, explain it to me. Nonsense. I'm not going to waste my time. That fellow has supposedly critiqued my work. You read that fellow's work, but you refuse to read my work to figure it out, because it is as much about the test of your own intellect, whether you can recognize the straw man or not. So for example, some comments, Aditya ji, we have to just ignore, right? Other times, suppose everyone has a different style. I mean, you and me, we talk online and we talk offline. We have a different style of speaking. But I'm saying, suppose if I say something and that offends someone, I mean, that can happen, and it's not intentional. But if it happens, just ignore that part. I mean, if somebody's not interested in talking to me, I understand that. Just ignore me. Just do your own thing. If I'm not interested in your stuff, I just ignore you. If I find that you have done something, even if you, meaning not you, Aditya ji, the other folks, even if they've done something nonsensical, but I can use this to educate the masses, I will use it. Okay, it's totally up to us. But my point is, we will get to that point 6 also in the next episode. But quickly, the number 5 is what we're going to discuss. I have shown this particular paper of Professor R.N. Iyengar, some celestial observations associated with Krishna Lord. Out of that, we discussed the last time that Dhanishta. I have also shown you that Abhijit thing. And then there is one beautiful reference from Harivansha. That also we will discuss. We might have to do 2 episodes. I'm just extending this episode. Don't think, guys, this is deliberate. It is very fascinating. Okay. So let's talk today about number 5. This reference comes in a Vana Parva of Mahabharata. Again, remember, although it is in Mahabharata, the actual content has absolutely nothing to do with the Mahabharata war. Okay, notwithstanding what Professor R.N. Iyengar believes, and in a jugaad fashion, he takes this and tries to again see how it supports his 1478. No, this has nothing, nada to do with the dating of the Mahabharata war. What are these 4 verses? Very beautiful. Again, for a context, my hope is that people find inspiration from this and go and read Mahabharata. Just read that, and quickly I'll go into the translation. This is translation from Krishna Mohan Ganguly. This is one translation. We will also read Professor R.N. Iyengar's translation. I will also suggest some changes to that translation and so on. But we will see, no matter what your translation is, you still have certain demands. If you are in this arena and you are playing the game, you are expected to do certain things that I'll show Professor R.N. Iyengar has simply not done. Beautiful 4 verses. Abhijit spardhamanatu rohinya kanyasi swasa icchanti jeshtatam devi tapastaptum vanam gata tatra mudosmi bhadram te nakshatram gaganachutam kalam tvimam param skanda brahmana sahachintaya dhanishtadi stada kalo brahmana parinirmita rohinyadyo bhavat purvam evam sankhya samabhavat eva mukte tu shakrena tridivam krittika gataha nakshatram shakatakaram bhati tad vani daivatam. Just you can, if you want to quickly have a look, those of you who can see on the screen, have a look at this. We are going to discuss this multiple times, so I'll not spend time discussing this. There are a few things here. We are going to summarize it. This is from that paper that I just showed you, translation of Professor R.N. Iyengar. Again, I will not read the Sanskrit verses, but let's look at the bottom. Abhijit, so besides the eclipses and planetary positions studied previously by the present author, Professor R.N. Iyengar, Mahabharata contains a few curious statements about some specific stars. And then he just writes what I just read. What is the translation? I'll tell you what is the correct translation. Now, remember, sometimes the translation is such that everything is not very clear. We have to use our Vyapti Jnana to make a sense out of it. But even when the translations can be different, we still have, as a scientific acumen, we have certain demands that we must meet. Let's go to the translation. Abhijit is younger to Rohini, but competing for seniority over Rohini. So here, Professor Iyengarji thinks the Abhijit is competing with Rohini. Okay, that is not how I understand it, but I'll get to that. So she went away to do penance. Abhijit went away somewhere to do the penance, to the tapasya. I am perplexed. Actually, he has not translated the word vana there. Vana means forest. Vana means water. Vana means like water in the sense of a rain, and it can mean few more things. Okay. I am perplexed to find a star missing from the sky. Okay. This is Indra telling to Skanda. That is how the dialogue comes. And this dialogue is been narrated by Markandeya to Yudhishthir. Try to understand. It's a Markandeya telling Yudhishthir long before the Mahabharata war of a story of the past where Indra is discussing something with Skanda. This is an astronomy metaphor. Indra is important. Indra is also sun. Indra is important for the east direction. Please keep this in mind, because all comes together. Indra is exact east direction. What is the importance of it? On that exact east direction, you're right at the middle point. Like think of an equator. Okay, you can look in the east direction, but you can also look in the north, and you can also look in the south. If you are exactly in the due east, meaning on the equator, it has a huge significance. So Indra is saying to Skanda, this is a astronomy metaphor. Then he says, Indra is saying, I'm perplexed to find a star is missing from the sky. Actual word is Tatra Mudosmi Bhadramte Nakshatram Gagana Chutam, as if it fell from the sky. Okay, we will see what the falling from the sky means. Then, as ordained by Brahma, time began with Dhanishta. Now, that is also not correct translation. Actually, what Indra is saying, Skanda, please discuss this with Brahma. Okay, so Tatra Mudosmi Bhadramte Nakshatram Gaganachutam Kalam Primam Param Skanda Brahmana Sa Chintaya. Please discuss this matter with Brahma. And yes, at that time, what Brahma did is Brahma started a time, or you can say the calendar, with Dhanishta Nakshatra. And where that Dhanishta was taken as a new position, that position, Rohini was also there in the past. Okay, that is the first three verses. The last verse, it says, when Indra said this to Skanda, it's again, remember, it's astronomy metaphor. Then the things happened. Brahma did this, Skanda talked to Brahma, etc. And then Kritika, another set of nakshatra out of 27, went up in the sky. Okay, evam uktena shakrena tridivam kritikagata. Tridivam here is translated as a sky. It can be translated as going exactly tridivam, like a go straight east. This translation, Aditya ji, by the way, was suggested by one Mr. Chakravarti. I forgot his first name, to me, and I'm thankful to him. Suggested to me very recently. Now, Kritika going tridivam, meaning rising due east, is what was proposed by me some 10 plus years ago. That is not the point. And Dr. P.V. Vartak had suggested even as early as 40 years ago. So none of this is new, by the way. Anyways, but so Kritika went to the sky. We'll just take it like that. That's also not correct. Tridivam, they went to the Tridivam, can be the Indra's direction or east direction or due east and so on. And that Kritika is shining brightly. Okay, now I'm not going to read this because this is a commentary of Professor R.N. Iyengar. And in a summary, Aditya ji, just like I read somebody else before. Oh yes, Dr. Ashok Bhatnagar ji, if you remember. And I had asked you the question, if you are on an exam and you get one question and you are clueless about what is happening, but you have some time left, what are you going to do, Aditya ji, again? You have a question on the exam, you must answer, but you don't know what the answer
I'm
is.
going to
What you
skip.
might do?
Skip. I'm going to skip.
Well, but if you have a time
Yeah,
and
wait,
no other questions is to be answered anymore,
then I'll
because
imagine and I'll start writing.
right, you are going to write as much as you can think of. Hope that the answer is somewhere there. Essentially, what he has done here is that.
People write the longest answers when they don't know anything about it.
Correct. Okay. Now, this is not very long, but this is totally vague. Now, am I saying that everything what he's stating there is wrong? No, actually not. I'm going to show you on the next page. There are some correct things, but they have nothing to do with these four verses. Actually, what these four verses are, four shlok are trying to say. So instead of reading that, I'm going to
One of
show
my
you in a graph.
personal thing I'll quote, Nilesh, sorry, I'm cutting
Please,
you
please.
a little bit.
Yeah.
When somebody writes Krishna lore, first of all, they don't understand English after that. Because lore means that it is a folk story, folklore.
Yeah.
No
Well,
proof.
that's why they call themselves scholars.
So the ideal word is like either you write as Siddhanta or
Krishna
you
Katha, Krishna
Katha.
narration.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
but just Krishna lore is just like folklore.
Correct. There you go. But I mean, correct. I mean, how many times you are going to criticize them? So, anyways, but yeah, I mean, I understand your point very well.
Bhagwan himself says that like like he says Buddha word he uses avjananti mam Muda manushim tanum ashritam
Yeah.
param bhavajanantu mama bhuta maheshwaram.
Yeah.
Very famous lines are there for many of these scholars who write all these lores.
Right. And and they feel like, so when if we criticize on the word like a lore, which we should, by the way, then they feel like, oh, these unscholarly, non-scholarly people, they don't know what we do.
Nowadays, bhakt is a new abuse word.
Correct. So well, we have to show them scholars what scholarly means or unscholarly means. Anyways,
Yes.
so instead of reading through this, because still people will not understand, I'm just going to graphically show what he's trying to say and why that does not make any sense. Now, some of the statements you're saying are correct. Actually, they are very knowledgeable. See, Professor Arinengar is very good in terms of quoting. So, for example, see, he says Taittiriya Brahmana. What I like about him is this. Many people will say, as it is stated in Taittiriya Brahmana, which means what? Now the guy is going to send me on a goose chase, like literally find where it is stated in Taittiriya Brahmana. Professor Arinengar doesn't do that. At least most of the time he doesn't do that. So he'll give a very specific reference, and that's so nice. And I'm thankful to him. I mean, of course, I knew this reference, but when we discuss the commentary evidence that he quotes from Harivamsha, you will find it fascinating, Aditya. We will do that as one more episode after this next and one more. It's worthy doing it. Okay. So we are in a way thanking him for bringing some of this wonderful stuff to our attention. It allows us to discuss it. Otherwise, people may not even listen. But now that a professor has written something, we are saying that is all illogical and unscientific. Now people say, oh, really? A professor from Indian Institute of Sciences and PhD and you in engineering, and you are saying that's unscientific and illogical. I think people are paying attention and people are learning. And I don't know, Aditya, what feedback you get. I get so much feedback. I cannot tell you how much feedback I get. I mean, all basically good feedback saying thank you for doing this. Okay. Then just I quoted from the next page of his paper, therefore it just came there. So I will just highlight one thing now. Just because he saw the word Dhanishta, and I'll show you, first thing, it has nothing to do with Mahabharata, and even in his scheme of Dhanishta at a winter solstice, that also does not match. But just because he found the word Dhanishta, and because he is so gung-ho about that 1478, no matter what Mahabharata evidence does to that date, he is just desperate and ready to find any reference from anywhere, twist it, torture it, interpret it in the way, whatever way he can, to show that how it matches. So therefore, I have highlighted that. There he is saying, could this be, forget that, the statement that this happened when the year began with star Dhanishta lends support to this possibility. Now, do you know, Aditya ji, what he's referring to? Can you tell me? He's saying this statement that this happened Forget this. When the time year began with Dhanishta lends support to this possibility, which is here the Brahma is saying Dhanish year began with Dhanishta or time began with Dhanishta. But see what he's saying.
Apples and
Winter
oranges.
apples and oranges. One more. The last time what we discussed, remember he found a
Yes.
Dhanishta there, a Shavishta, and he's jumping and saying, look, this Ashwamedha reference, Ashwamedha Parva reference also matches. It doesn't. It is from past time. Same thing here. Then he pulls Dhanishta, winter solstice at Dhanishta was the period of Vedanga Jyotisha. I just don't want to lengthen this session. Otherwise, I would, but as an independent, maybe not related to the Purva Paksha of Arina Yangarji, we will do this on the or get Aditya ji, ask Mrs. Rupa Bhatti ji to go over this. The whole nonsense of Dhanishta from Vedanga Jyotisha and winter solstice. She's very passionate about it. It's a common sense, but people will just continue to doing the fakery. And I'm not just referring to Aryan Iyengar. Yeah? People will, once they get something, some professor, some so-called scholar, some PhD wrote somewhere, they will just continue to repeat it ad nauseum and just take it as a truth. No, it is not a truth. There is no reference to that winter solstice and Dhanishta in a Vedanga Jyotisha, but I will discuss it also sometime. Or if you can get Rupaji to do it. I mean, she was not doing well recently, but if you can get her. Okay.
So she's coming, so we'll do that time.
Yeah. So do remind her, one of those. Yeah. Okay. So what he just wrote there, that on the paper for which he doesn't know the answer, I'm just showing, okay, Vanaparva reference, that Abhijit reference. There are 4 stars, he's saying, correct. So I will tell you what part is correct. Abhijit, Rohini, Dhanishta, Kritika. These 4 stars are discussed. Agreed. That's correct. He says meaning is not clear. Hey, I have nothing to object one way or the other. He's saying the meaning is not clear to him. Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit also said this 130 years ago. Correct. If you don't understand the meaning, then you will not able to interpret them. But then why bother interpreting it? Shankar Balakrishna did not do it. He tried and he gave up. He said, I don't understand it. Okay. Now, we should thank all of them, including Professor Iyengarji and Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit and Lokmanya Tilak and Vartak and everyone. Because we are standing on their shoulders, we can make a progress for our civilizational studies. Then he mentions that Taittiriya Samhita mentions only 27 nakshatra. That is correct. Then he also mentions that Taittiriya Brahmana mentions 28 nakshatra. The next extra nakshatra is the Abhijit, and it is shown between Uttara Ashada and Shravana. Again, he is correct. Okay, so I'm giving him a credit for where he is correct and factual. Then he says Rohini is equal to Aldebaran. That is also correct. But he says in this verse, meaning that Abhijit verse, it gave him an impression that word Jeshta, Abhijit Spardhamana tu Rohini Kanyasaswasa Icchanti Jeshtata Devi. That Jeshta, I don't know if that is the one. That gave him an impression that the Jeshta is called Rohini. I do not see any basis for it, but we'll just move on because it's a minor point, okay? And it's deliberately sends people on a tangent. And many times these scholars want to do exactly that, okay? So that Jeshta Antares, I'll not go there, but I'll explain why he possibly does that. You will see the whole thing here, and I will leave it to anyone. This is my challenge to any Indian astronomer or non-Indian astronomer who wants to claim understands Mahabharata and understands Indian astronomy and understands Sanskrit, to look at this chart and tell me with a straight eye that this makes sense to that person, and then show me how this can be objectively tested, okay? It is hard to explain the total jugad and total illogic behind this, but I'll try my best. Then he says Abhijit competing with Rohini and Abhijit vanishing from the sky. So he's saying Abhijit is competing with Rohini. I do not agree with it, but I'm not objecting to him. If he can show with the empirical evidence that how Abhijit is competing with Rohini, hey, be my guest. He doesn't show that ever, anywhere. Then he says that could be the allegory for brightening of who, he doesn't explain. I presume Abhijit, followed by dimming beyond recognition. Aditya ji, I mean, you must be going, why Nilesh is even discussing this? The problem is there is no evidence. Abhijit is a very bright star, and yeah, of course, all stars go through some changes in their brightness. Abhijit, there is no question of Abhijit dimming beyond recognition. So what is he talking? Okay. Then he says allusion to missing Abhijit in Taittiriya Samhita. I'll give him a credit. What he's saying is, see, Taittiriya Samhita is referring to only 27 nakshatra and Abhijit is not mentioned. Taittiriya Brahmana is mentioning 28. So as if like Taittiriya Samhita is giving allusion to missing Abhijit. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I will explain you why Taittiriya Samhita is only showing 27. That tells you possibly that particular reference nakshatra list in Taittiriya Samhita and when it would have been added. Added meaning when it would have been composed as a part of Taittiriya Samhita. Because that time Abhijit cannot be a functional nakshatra. Common sense. Now then he just goes on another tangent. Totally irrelevant. Okay. Chinese supernova records refer to a star near Antares that vanished in 1400 BCE. Do you see, Aditya, what is happening here? He's so obsessed with 1400 BCE that he finds some Chinese record of supernova records of referring to some star near Antares. Antares meaning Jeshta Nakshatra. My God, what that has to do with Abhijit or Rohini or Dhanishta or Kritika, beyond me. And that's why I'm saying I'm challenging anyone in the world to take this particular interpretation and make sense out of it. Okay, it will show that person's acumen, scientific acumen and logical reasoning. So he's saying that so Abhijit equal to Vega, then relative brightening would be with respect to Antares. Honestly, I'm just trying to summarize what he's saying. I don't even understand what he's trying to say. Could this be in reference to Abhijit vanishing in MB? You talk about, what is your word? Philosophical reasoning and mental reasoning?
Philosophical speculation and mental speculation.
And mental speculation. So think of this as a mental speculation. Now, nothing wrong with this. Could this be in reference to Abhijit vanishing? If you follow this track, it has not made any sense to me. And the reason I tried to do this is to make sense. And this is not just now, by the way, this slide is not prepared for this talk. This slide I prepared like in 2009. This is from 2009. I just never had a chance until Aditya ji showed up and Sattology showed up, to talk about this. So could this be a reference to Abhijit vanishing? I don't understand it, but let's move on. The year began with Dhanishta. Now remember what he quotes. He quotes Ashwamedha 44. Remember? Yeah. We already showed that is falsified. That has nothing to do with Mahabharata war. So if you have a premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, premise 4, premise 5, you combine those to draw inference. But if any one of the premise is wrong, then your conclusion is wrong. We don't need to even go there. That's simple logic. That's simple Nyaya Shastra, guys. Okay. All right. Then winter solstice at Dhanishta was the period of Vedanga Jyotisha. Let's not discuss that today. But even if it is, first thing, it is not. Okay, but let's not discuss that. So what? What that has to do with the Mahabharata dating? About a reference that has nothing to do with the Mahabharata, other than it is only in the Mahabharata. That's the kind of things scholars are doing. Then, to justify his total incomprehension, do you know what he says? Again, he says, Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit said he could not understand the meaning of last 3 lines. Well, professor is like, he's like indirectly saying, don't blame me. I have not understood it. But Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit has also not understood it. By the way, he was also teaching in the Pune. He used to teach 130 years ago. And then he adds, he says, a astronomer of great repute. No, that is true. Shankar Balakrishna Dikshit, in my humble opinion, was one of the best, if not the best astronomers in India of last 300, 400 years. Okay. That doesn't mean he has not made mistakes. That's besides the point.
So, Nilesh, one point I make, that people make mental speculation only when they are philosophically not convinced.
Correct.
Because see, like if you want to do a research and if you don't trust your research professor under whom you are doing research, that research is not going to go anywhere. So when you start, when you start doubting the author of this original literature,
great point.
So then that means you are going to go astray from him because you want to become his author first. So Guru ka bhi Guru.
Point. Actually, yes. Great point. The reason I'm saying is,
bolte na bossano boss instead of dasano das.
There is this guy in Canada. He is writing a series of critique of my Ramayana dating. And I welcome that, I mean, when I read it, I realize it's a crap and I don't spend time. But I'm glad that he's doing it because it's going to raise interest in people's mind. There will be a manthan and there will be more interest. So in a way, I'm very, very happy. But what he does also, like what you just said, na? So for example, just like leftists do it, like, they will show why did Rama behave like this and some operation and this and that. But then if you ask them, okay, so we will discuss why Rama might have done that and why you think it was a social operation, whatnot. But so do you accept that Rama was there? Then they shut their mouth again. Similarly, this guy, he will quote something and try to show that my interpretation, my translation from Surya Siddhanta is wrong. Now he does a horrible job at that, but let's leave that aside. But then I said, okay, so I mean, if mine is wrong, as you said, what is your interpretation? He says, there is no interpretation. Surya Siddhanta is wrong. What you just said, if you don't trust the original text itself, right? I mean, the author, in this case, Vyasadeva, and therefore you're going the hill, the journey is a downhill. Same thing. So if you think Surya Siddhanta is wrong, why are you bothering taking something from that and how I might have translated or mistranslated? Just say the book that Nilesh Oak is referring to cannot be trusted.
That's it. Exactly.
Stop there. It should be a debate about can we trust Surya Siddhanta? It should be debate about can we trust Mahabharata text? It should be debate about can we trust Ramayana text? Not about something else and Nilesh does it this way.
No, they want to actually say that, but they cannot. Because the life will be over, the career will be done.
Many times thereafter popularity, actually I'll talk about this sometime, sometime, one person actually asked me, like, when this guy from Toronto was doing it, he said, is he trying to piggyback on your success? And I said, yeah, he might be, but that's perfectly okay with me, because he has written some books or whatever. They're not, nobody's reading them. And he says maybe he can get some cheap publicity out of it. Well, at least we should give him a credit for his marketing thinking. Nothing wrong with that.
Give one example. Shukracharya and Brihaspati had huge arguments, but on Sanjeevani they united.
There you go.
Because that knowledge was only with Shukracharya.
Yeah, well, that will happen. See, that will happen. See, for example, this morning I wrote a tweet about this guy in Toronto. And I said, this guy is not any different than our the other person, Dr. I don't know if she came on your show, probably not. Dr. Jayashree Saranathan, okay, the PhD in astrology, who wrote, I don't know if you know, she wrote a book, whole book. The book is bigger than my book, right? Critiquing my book, which is great. And even in the title, my full name is there. Nilesh Nilakantha Oak is in the title of her book. Okay. Okay. And one time some guy sent me the copy of it. Must be like a Kindle or some such copy. And so I just saw, like, started reading Nilesh Oak, Nilesh Oak, Nilesh Oak. It's like a Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. So I just did Control Find and typed Nilesh. And do you know what it did? That application, I mean, that book, it said 500 plus instances of Nilesh. Okay. In the book on the Mahabharata, of course, critiquing my work, but it's all about, there is a Nilesh Oak 3 times on the page. And Ashwini, my wife, she said, oh, she's infatuated with you. Anyways, the humor aside, let's go. So now I'm showing with the X marks that Abhijit Rohini correct, meaning is not clear to him is correct, Taittiriya Samhita has 27, all that is correct. When I'm marking X, I'm saying it's a non sequitur. That is the fallacy. The fact that Taittiriya Brahmana has 28, Samhita has 27, in no way it leads to that Rohini is Aldebaran and Rohini therefore is referring to Jeshta. Here the word Jeshta is in the sense of seniority. Even, I will not go back, but anybody can go back at the lecture. Even R.N. Iyengarji has translated as a seniority. But here he is taking Jeshta as a proper noun, referring to the Jeshta nakshatra. Not correct. Then that is fine possibly. But then this, anywhere I'm showing X, now I will not spend much time. There is a very interesting stuff further. Anywhere I'm saying X, I'm saying it's a non sequitur. This does not logically lead to what he's claiming next. So anywhere I'm putting X, it's a non sequitur, non sequitur, non sequitur. There's no connection. But after this, it's like, I did all this gobbledygook. Okay. And suddenly, hey, here is the answer, like a magician does. And so he says, well, guess what? Hence, proved. Like in the math, if you know the final answer, do all the jargon in between, whatever you want to do, and finally say, here's the answer, and just underline it. He says, hence 1478 BC is the Mahabharata war. No, professor, that's not how the research is done. That's not how scientific acumen works. That's not how logical reasoning works. Okay, really, Okay, how to avoid Vitanda? Now I'm saying let's take that mirror, what we were showing the mirror to somebody else. Now let's project it at ourselves. So in this case, I criticized him enough, but somebody should ask me, so Nilesh, yeah, so maybe his meaning is wrong, maybe his translation is wrong, it doesn't make sense, not logical, non sequitur, all correct. Do you have something better to offer? And that is the other point of Nyaya Darshana. This is also I try to convey to the scholarly community who were praising this guy from Toronto, who is writing about critiquing my work. I said, this guy is not providing alternate solution. He is doing Vitanda, and Vitanda is to be rebuked. Okay, from Nyaya Darshana. They said, oh, are you an expert of Nyaya Darshana? Can you help me with something, blah, blah, blah. How to avoid Vitanda? So, Pratipaksha Sthapana Hino Vitanda. There are some areas, Adityaji, you might have noticed. For example, you get many other guests, and they talk about this Maurya, Gupta, Buddha's dating, and which is all good, by the way. This is very much required for a manthan and so on. Have you seen me talk about the date of Shankaracharya or Buddha or Maurya or Gupta on your show?
No, nothing, not
No.
much.
The reason is I do not know anything about it. I have nothing to say. So even if there is another claim, I may ask that person, what is your evidence, just for my knowledge, but I have nothing in alternate to offer. So I don't, there is nothing to debate for me because I don't have my own position. That is what, if I don't have my own position, but if I am just finding fault with someone, then it's a Vitanda. So if I criticize Professor Iyengar for this Abhijit thing, but I don't have my own date. If I criticize Professor Aryan Iyengar's 1478 BCE, but I don't have my own claim for the year of Mahabharata war, then I'm doing Vitanda. That is what this other guy, if you have heard about his name, Jijit Nadumuri Ravi, he does it.
Yes.
He's a master of it. Okay. Nobody takes him seriously, but he can create some mess. He can create some irritation. Among people. What is that?
Utpataeva kalpate.
Utpataeva kalpate. There you go.
Shruti Smriti Puran Adi Pancharatri ki Vidimvina. Ekanti ki Harer Bhakti Utpataeva
kalpate. Right? Absolutely.
One of the things which you said very important is that not that during Mahabharata time there was no arguments. There were arguments because all types of rishis. But the good thing is, whether you are a Shiv Bhakta or a Durga Bhakta or a Vishnu Bhakta or any other Bhakta, they have so many Kul Devata. But they were all sitting under one umbrella for Vyasdev, because Vyasdev is the authority. Now you cannot go beyond Vyasdev. Uske baad jayenge to fir aapko seedha Bhagwan ke paas jana padega.
Correct.
Nothing in the middle after that.
Right.
So the point is that even if they have differences of opinion, but they reconcile based on the version of Vyasdev.
And truth, right? And the ardent desire for the truth, not like my truth, your truth or something,
And Vedvyas won't write or speak anything if Ganesh is the ultimate check over there.
Yeah.
Because Ganesh ji will not write anything if it is not factual.
Correct. So, and precisely for that reason, Aditya ji, suppose there is some portion in Mahabharata that we don't understand, at least my position, I would say, not that everyone has to agree. I said, keep it aside. Aside meaning you may not have anything to offer there, but don't say that, oh, that doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense to you. It may make perfect sense to somebody else, right? So that can happen. It is all depends on the limitations of our intellect. My point is, if I have criticized him, I have to provide an alternate thing. Otherwise, just purely criticizing doesn't make sense. So, Pratipaksha Sthapana Hino Vitanda. If you don't have your own position, but you are criticizing somebody's position, you are doing a Vitanda. This is what this guy from Toronto is doing, by the way, with everything. And somebody told me to just start defending us. Start responding. I said, no, I'll not respond. I would rather want him to write whatever the hell he wants to write. Right. Then I don't need to do anything. He is going to, actually, it has already happened. He hasn't realized. His cheerleading camp has not realized. He's falling on his own internal contradictions. Okay.
Right.
And that we will see, and we may take this as a series in some future time.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to show you the alternate explanation for this. And it's so beautiful. Again, I will not say that this happened in a minute. Even what I have written in my book, the Mahabharata book that I wrote 10 years ago, is not exactly what I'm presenting it to you. I'm presenting it to you, the improved version. But I will tell you also something else, which is this. If I ever re-edit my book, the Mahabharata book, where I have discussed this Abhijit reference, what I can assure you, what I will do is I will not remove the portions that I have written over which I have improved now. I will keep it as it, and then I will say addendum. I'll say I have added something, and I will say now how this explanation, the new explanation, is better than what I wrote 12 years ago. The reason is we have to even preserve our mistakes. Okay. So therefore, when we are doing Purva Paksha, it is not to show anyone down, but actually to show what kind of mistakes even well-respected academia, scholars, researchers, whoever can make, and how we can learn from them and therefore do better job when we do it. Quickly, I'm going to metaphorically explain this, and we will be done very fast. But we can have like 10-15 minutes, Aditya ji. Aditya ji?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So quickly, just for the easy, people might be finding some heavy stuff. For easy understanding, what this is, imagine two sisters. Remember, these 27 nakshatras are considered the sisters, like the daughters of Daksha, right? Prajapati Daksha, and they are all married to moon. Again, this is astronomy metaphor, not to be taken literally. But imagine they are sisters and they are running. So this is what I'm showing you is my translation, my interpretation. What matters is that, therefore I said, if Professor Iyengarji does slightly different, actually everyone has done it different, by the way. SB Dikshit did slightly different, Iyengarji did it different, Dr. Vartak did it different. There is one, now he passed away a few years ago. Vartak also passed away 2 years now. Very good, wonderful individual, Sri Prabhakar Fadnisji. He also passed away a couple of years ago. And he and me, we have met, we had a great times, great discussions on the phone. And he also proposed something else. So I'm saying he has proposed something else. I have proposed something else. We are looking at 4 or 5 different things. I am showing you my interpretation and how that matches. So when it says Abhijit Spardhamanatu Rohini Kanisha Swasa, Abhijit is competing with the younger sister of Rohini. I am saying that younger sister of Rohini referred to is a Dhanishta. And I'll show you the table so you'll understand how people are thinking different. So these two are competing. Competing for what? Okay. They tapas taptum vanam gata. Okay. They are at the tapa, meaning tap, temperature, but also you can consider penance and, doing the samadhi, tapasya. And going to vana, meaning also forest, it also means a rain. Okay, and that is the interpretation is to going to the point of summer solstice. By the way, many of the people do agree that it is referring to going to the point of summer solstice. We will leave it at that. That is my interpretation anyways. They both are running. These nakshatra are going. Who goes first? Who reaches first the point of summer solstice? That is this competition is about. Okay, Abhijit Spardha. The competition is about who goes first. These two are competing. Okay, now time for question answer there, Abhijit. Aditya ji. If you are running, okay, and if you are not into running race, but still you'll able to answer. If you are running in a regular 400 meters, marathon, whatever, 2 types of air resistance you can imagine on a terrestrial track if you are in a running competition. Can you imagine what those 2 would be? Like if you are running, what 2 types of resistance I'm going to feel?
Wind,
but both would be wind, but 2 kinds of wind.
Yeah, opposing us.
Yes,
and also the slant, like recline, incline.
Very good. Okay, one is the headwind, just like an aeroplane flying, for example, and other is a crosswind. Crosswind can also push you out of your lane, and it also help because you have to overcome that, right? In a power industry, we call it VARs. We have to give VARs to get a useful power. So headwind and a crosswind.
Crosswind.
Okay, now let's use this metaphor to the celestial one. Two types of celestial resistance is also faced by nakshatra. Now, again, remember, this is a metaphor. On the celestial track, they are running towards the point of summer solstice. See, this is how our ancients told the stories of 27 nakshatras and a moon, and why they did that. It's easy to visualize, easy to remember.
For a human brain.
For a human brain, for an ordinary brain. That is also a beautiful description, definition of a drishtanta. This is a drishtanta, udaharana, right?
Correct.
Analogy, upamana. That is a good definition in Nyaya
You said
Darshana.
something very important here, Nilesh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because see, the Shastra were written in before Kali Yuga. Manda Sumanda Matyo Manda Bhagyat Upadruta.
Yeah.
Because we don't have, we may claim Ved Vadrata Partha Nade Astiti Vadina. We can claim that's exactly Ved Nade Astiti Vadina. मतलब जो बोल रहा वही सही है, nothing else is true. Nade Astiti Vadina. So that's very called Ved Vadrata.
You have to send me these verses.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, very good analogy.
Go on.
That's why it is written for Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
Because Kali Yuga, our brains are like that. Manda Sumanda Matyo. हम लोग अपने आप को, we can call ourselves scholar, but Vyasdev says something else about us.
Yeah.
And therefore they write it down.
Yeah. This is fascinating. See, I think Aditya, what we need to do is take 5 questions, and instead of being a me bit of in a monologue fashion, we should just do more of a discussion, back and forth. This is beautiful. I mean, I have listened to those verses, but they are not, I don't have those by heart. Very, very beautiful. So please, you may forget what you said. So just write down on the side, the 2 verses that you just quoted it to me. Okay. So two types of celestial air resistance on the celestial track. Very similar, headwind and the crosswind. The headwind is a right ascension. See, the longitude there, that's where they are going along the cardinal points, right? They're going in a circle, so to say. Cardinal points are going like this, nakshatras are going like this, so to say. So that's a headwind, like they have to go that much distance. But the crosswind is declination can push them in this direction or that direction because of many factors.
We call it oscillation, we call it.
Right? And the drishtanta word in a Nyaya Darshana is again so beautiful. You know what it says? Like common man, how we make common man understand. The word used is drishtanta. It says drishtanta, take help of drishtanta. Laukika parikshakanam yasmin arte buddhi samyam sadrishtanta. That particular example, which brings the ordinary folks and the experts on the same page, that is drishtanta. How beautiful, how crisp, how scientific is the definition of drishtanta in Nyaya Darshana. That's
and
what
drishtanta can differ also.
Yes.
That's why the agama is not the shastra. It's not shruti nor smriti. It's a drishtanta.
Yeah. It's a practical way of making people understand, right?
Understand. Yes, right.
Certain thing. Making it a simple formula. Get up in the morning and drink 1 liter water.
You're right.
The whole background is not given why I drink 1 liter water, something like that. So now what happened is, I'm going to make it shorter. I have big blogs written on this. So now imagine, so the orange color is Dhanishta and the light blue color is Abhijit. If you look at their records, so the race started 22,000 BC and it ended in 14,500 BC. Now understand, that is the time period we are looking at. So in this, see, that's people will think, come on, why are we discussing? The beauty of these 4 lines is it is telling a civilizational and astronomy history that began in 22,000 BC approximately and ended at 14,500 BC approximately, which is what? Almost 8,000 years of history here. What you're seeing is the speed at which Dhanishta ran, so to say. Now, remember, this is a metaphor. It is like how it went faster in the right ascension direction with comparison to Abhijit. So if you just look at these 2 speeds, what would you say? Who is the winner? Just based on the speed. Like higher the number, meaning they went faster.
Yeah. So that means
Dhanishta.
Yes.
Right from the beginning, it was fast and it went faster. That's it. But something else also happened. Now that actually helped Dhanishta too, which is this. This is this Abhijit's fall. It's literally and also metaphorically. So what happened is, remember, they have to remain in their track also. So once they started drifting from their tracks. Okay. Fortunately, the Dhanishta recovered at some point. The Abhijit never recovered, so to say. Well, eventually it did. That's a different story. But it never recovered. That blue line just went down, down, down. It never came up. So see, you may even reach the destination, but if you are not in your lane, you are disqualified. In case of Abhijit, it did not reach the destination and it totally drifted from its lane. And it stopped being a nakshatra. See, that is the beauty why Taittiriya Samhita has 27 and Taittiriya Brahmana has 28.
28.
Okay, so when the Taittiriya Samhita reference to 27 nakshatra was composed, Abhijit was not qualified as a nakshatra because it had become a pole star. So possible timing for the composition of that reference to 27 nakshatra in Taittiriya Samhita is around 14,000 BC, 13,000 BC, 12,000 BC, 11,000 BC, or you have to go back another 26,000 years in the past. You can also find out the timing for the insertion of Taittiriya Brahmana. That is getting too many detail, I'll not say it, but that comes to either 3000 BC around that time, or go back way, way back, again 26,000 years. So that's what is happening. Okay. Now, quickly, the successful claim should be able to explain. There are 4 verses that we looked at. It should be able to explain what is the competition about, who is Abhijit competing with, significance of going to Vana and Tapa, and the timing of the event. Now remember, these all 4 things are happening at one time. Very, very important to remember, all of us who are watching. All 4 things are happening. Actually, there are like a total of 15 things. They're all happening at one time, at least most of them. Second shlok, which nakshatra has fallen from the sky? What is the significance of the fall? Timing of the fall and timing of Indra's request to Skanda. What is the timing? Third, significance of calendar time beginning with Dhanishta. Why with the Dhanishta? Timing of this calendar change and beginning. That has to be consistent. And the last one, what is the significance of Kritika going to heaven or Kritika going to Tridivam? Significance of Tridivam and timing of Kritika going to heaven or at Tridivam. So there are like a 15 things here actually. I'm just going to speed forward, and then if we need to revisit this another time, we will do it, not in the context of Purva Paksha. So I don't have a column for Professor Aryan Iyengarji simply because what I showed you on that block diagram is what he has done. He has nothing to say about this other than he found the word Dhanishta. Somehow he can connect with the winter solstice from Vedanga Jyotish and Ashwamedha, which are all been falsified, no connection with the Mahabharata. And then therefore he just wants to do the jugaad and say, hey, it matches. So I have not done it. He has nothing there to produce other than 1478. But the other 3, Vartak, Oak, and Fadnis. So I've just shown this and I'll highlight my column in the middle. First verse has got 5 points. Who is the Devi? Okay, have they given the answer? All 3 have given the answer. Even Iyengarji has given the answer. Let's look at those answers. Vartak thinks that Devi competing with Abhijit is Kritika. I am saying it's Dhanishta. Padnis is saying it's Anuradha. And Iyengarji is saying it's a Rohini. Just so that everyone understands. Rationale for Devi competing with Nakshatra's ability for seniority, Vartakji has not given. Fadnisji has not given. I have given this. What is the rationale? They are next to each other. If you look at it, the Nakshatra system, the Dhanishta and Abhijit, which is Vega, Brahmarashi, they are together. They are very, very close to each other. They are starting towards summer solstice. Dhanishta reached there and Abhijit just went in a totally different direction, tangential direction, and became a pole star. Devi going to Vana, what does that mean? Water or heated by a hot season is going to point of summer solstice. At least these 3 people agree. Iyengarji, I don't think he has even understood the meaning of it. Okay. Then Devi went to the point of summer solstice. Now, because Vartak is thinking it's Kritika, the timing comes like this. Fadnis is thinking it's Anuradha, the timing comes like this. I am saying it's Dhanishta, therefore the timing is like this. Now think of it. In case of Vartak, at least the Kritika is mentioned in those 4 shloka. In case of Fadnis, the Anuradha is nowhere mentioned. Okay. And it creates more problems. Let's go to quickly second verse. We're almost done. Now the Shakra, meaning Indra, tells Skanda that Nakshatra has fallen from the sky. Do they all agree? Yes, yes, yes. In case of Iyengarji, also we can say yes. But which Nakshatra? It's not clear. In case of these 3 folks, Vartak, Oak, and Fadnis, they all agree that yes, it is Abhijit. Iyengarji said so, but then he goes on, he deflects, he talks, maybe it's a star near Jeshta, maybe Chinese supernova doing something, not very clear. And what is the timing of it? Because again, Vartak is taking Abhijit, that's 13,000 BC. So I wouldn't say there is any difference between what Vartak is saying and what I am saying. Okay, directionally that is correct. 13,000 BC, 14,000, that's not the difference. But Fadnis has a huge difference. And of course, Iyengar is always stuck in 1478, the year 1478. Now, the timing of Indra appealing to Skanda for calendar, again, Vartak and Oak are on the same agreement, and that's correct. Fadnis is not correct. Quickly, last one. Verse number 3, I'm talking those 4 verses. Brahma created calendar beginning with Nakshatra Dhanishta. Okay, do they agree? Vartak actually doesn't, I mean, is the timing the same as the previous 2 events? Because all 4 verses are referring to same event. Vartak doesn't think so. You will see the answer here. Okay, Oak says yes, and Fadnis in this case says no. Why no? Actually, the date of Fadnis is same as Oak here. I say not applicable because I don't have the problem with this question itself. But why this is a problem for Fadnis? Actually, this answer is my answer here too, although it's not required. The problem is his other answers are different. Here there's 8,000, there is a 6,000 there, and something like that. That's why he is into problem. Now, earlier to this, I'll just skip that. Sometime we'll revisit. I mean, it's easy, but it will take a long explanation. Last one, the time when Rohini was at the beginning of calendar. So again, Vartak, Oak, they are on the same page here. Fadnis doesn't even explain. Let's quickly go to the last one. The verse 4, the Krutikas going to heaven, Krutika going to Tridivam. When Shakra Indra said this, Krutika went to heaven. That's a kind of a generic translation. What is the meaning of it? Vartak cannot provide this for this anytime, whether 21,000 or 13,000. Because Vartak doesn't believe it's 13,000. Okay, I mean, the Abhijit fell in 13,000, but Krutika he's saying 21,000, 23,000. Fadnis says Kritika at a winter solstice. Why it is called this suddenly like a Hevam, or what is the significance of Tridivam being at a winter? I am saying Kritika rising exactly at the east direction. Okay, Shakra is talking about it, but east direction. From there, you can look in the north also. You are on the equator. You can in the east, but you can also look in the south. Again, just to give a due credit, this Tridivam as like referring to looking at the 3 direction or ability to look in 3 direction is given by one Mr. Chakravarti. I forgot his first name. The fact that it is on the due east is obviously my contribution, because just like Kritika was rising due east in 3000 BC, it was also rising in 14,963 BC, 15 millennium BC. And timing of Kritika going to heaven, not explained by Vartak. Fadnis gives a different date. So if you look at the Fadnis whole thing, these dates are all over. Even in case of Vartak, the dates are all over. Forget Professor R.N. Iyengarji. He's stuck in that 1478, whatever he can find. Well, guess what? This has absolutely nothing to do with the Mahabharata war. So we may not even discuss that. If you just go through this column, what you'll find is that for all the 4 verses, the timing of this happening is 15th millennium BC, a middle of 15 millennium BC. Think of 14,500. And only the Oak proposal can show that. Objectively, you can test each of this claim and show that to be true for this particular reference. Quick summary. This Vana Parva reference has nothing to do with the timing of Mahabharata war. We cannot say this enough, because that's what people are doing. They're using this to justify their claim of Mahabharata war. There are at least 15 specific phenomena to be explained. So what are those 15? Just so that you add for each verse is like 4 here, 2 here, 5 there, and so on. Those are the 15 I'm referring to. At least 15 specific phenomena to be explained. 15 millennium BCE, just broadly speaking, 14,000, the whole 14,000 to 15,000. You can take average 14,500 BCE, but something 14,600, 14,900. The 15 millennium BC is the only time that can explain all 15 phenomena related to this Vana Parva. Vana C, the same reference, is a precious evidence. That is another fascinating astronomy evidence validating deep antiquity of Indian astronomy. It all culminated in 15 millennium BCE, but the whole episode, the whole dynamic, whatever happened, started in 22,000 BCE. Indians are observing sky that long in that deep antiquity. Okay, and people are most of our even pro-India researchers are stuck in the Surya Siddhanta of last 2,000 years. That's it. They cannot see anything beyond. And even Professor Arvind Iyengar, who does go beyond, but even he always finds a challenge to go anything beyond 3000 BC. Okay, that's a different subject. And then the Warner reference does not corroborate 1478 BCE. It doesn't need to be said, but I thought I'll just repeat it if somebody has missed it, as the year of Mahabharata war. That's it, Aditya ji.
So amazing points, and I think we had a very good discussion for some of you. And I'm like a small mosquito in this knowledge well. So, but still, from my side, whatever we can quote. But one thing is sure, me and Nilesh ji both follow philosophical speculation model, where we don't go beyond the Shastra himself and the author himself.
Yeah.
Evidence is coming from there itself. And Nilesh ji, we'll discuss offline, and then we'll may do a show that in my new book, One Arrow, One Kill,
Yes.
I did point out the exact location, Shaluda River.
Oh, very nice.
So it matches the description of both Mahabharata and Ramayana.
Beautiful.
Because the geographical things have not changed. Mountains have not moved.
Correct. And that is the insight you gave me. So the river paths may move, and again, even if they move, they cannot move drastically. At least in the geographical region, they will be same, but they can move significantly. That is actually true. But mountains don't move that fast.
Mountains don't move.
Yeah.
And so we'll discuss that because there is an exact place, and I did speak to a local person also in that area.
And one more thing I'll quickly mention, because you said you feel like a small mosquito. We all should feel like a small mosquito, in terms of knowledge. I'm going to quickly quote something that you will love it. This is again from Sir Karl Popper. He says, while each one of us differ little bit in that little bit that we know, each one of us know, he says, when it comes to ultimate ignorance, we are all equal.
Great word. And I think as a learner, that should be our mindset also, because otherwise you can't learn. The learning stops when you start claiming that there is nothing to learn, but learning never stops for a shishya. And shishya means one who can learn from somebody else. Anyway, great show and great points. And I hope the viewers will love it. One of the best shows we have recorded. And I don't know how many best have happened. So,
so let's compete with ourselves,
Yes. And so many best shows we have given. So instead of, I know it's a very tragic time, and my heart goes out to all the people who are suffering. From my side, whatever contribution I can make to help people from India, I've done it. And I encourage other viewers who are watching this video to also do it. And my recommendation is, since you're outside of India, rather do it through an official agency like PM Cares, so that it reaches the right people from a centralized place. There are many other organizations that have done a fantastic job, and Sattology also, we have contributed to all of those efforts. So thank you all very much. Namaskar and Jai Shri Ram and Jai Jagannath, whatever you prefer.
Jai Shri Ram, Jai Jagannath. Namaskar. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you.